Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be one of my talking videos, not really a working on a vehicle video. This is obviously not my Subaru, and if you're new to the channel, here is what my Subaru looks like, or you can just look at the thumbnail again. But anyway, I wanted to take the time to kind of help some of you guys that are nervous about purchasing a Subaru or deciding if you even want to purchase a Subaru, because I know there's a lot of controversy with like reliability and just the community, Subaru community, but yeah. So I want to start by saying I love my Subaru, and I would not I'm glad I have it. With that being said, I would encourage you to not buy a Subaru unless you really want a Subaru for a specific reason. Because Subarus are expensive to upgrade and they're temperamental. You got to do things right. Now, on the plus side of that, because you have to do things right when modding a Subaru, it's honestly a great car to learn on because it helps you learn how to do things right by the book for every car. If you can build a Subaru reliably, then you're probably going to be pretty decent at keeping other cars reliable. I wrote some notes down on my phone just so I don't skip any points, because I wanted to share everything with you guys that I have kind of learned over the few years I've had a Subaru. So I said they're expensive, and they're expensive to modify. If you're buying a Subaru to keep it stock, it's not going to be expensive once you have it. I mean, it's just regular maintenance that's on every other car, just like every other car. So they're a little expensive to make power out of, opposed to buying a V8 and putting the same amount of money into it and having 500 more horsepower, or just throwing a tune on it and you have a bunch more horsepower. So keep in mind that if you're buying a Subaru to build power or to just modify, it's going to be more expensive than other vehicles. The reason I say they're temperamental is because on just about anything you do to a Subaru performance-wise, you need a tune. I'm not going to get deep into what you do and don't need a tune for. I actually have a video already explaining in detail when you need a tune. I'll put that first link in the description. You can click on that and watch it if you're curious about that. However, there's a lot of things that you need a tune for. So if you are wanting to purchase a Subaru, I'm kind of rambling here, but I'll try to keep it structured. If you're wanting to purchase a Subaru to modify, keep in mind you're going to have to most likely, your best option would be to buy an access port, a Cobb access port, because and recently Cobb has updated, and there's changes with their tunes because of like the Green Speed Act or whatever. I don't know much about that, but a lot of the stuff you buy, like for instance, a cold air intake, there'll be a tune on the access port that you can just load in to compensate for it. And if you're wanting to get deeper into it, you can, and not do an expensive dyno pro tune, which is ideal in any scenario, you can do an e-tune, which if you look back at my torque performance videos that I just posted within the last month or two, I go in full detail about my torque performance tune, which is an e-tune, and I highly recommend doing that if you're trying to make power on a budget. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that in this video. But let's kind of back up And if you're buying a car, let's start out with if you're purchasing it from a dealership or from an individual. Honestly, from what I've seen, dealerships try to cover up, or maybe they don't even know about it, but they try to cover up or not know about what has been done to the Subaru. And obviously you're never gonna know what's been done to it. You're not gonna know how it's been treated. But if you walk up on a Subaru at a dealership and it has a cold air intake on it and there's not an access port, that would be a red flag for me. If you see an aftermarket exhaust or aftermarket downpipe, catback is fine, it can be whatever without a tune. But if you see a downpipe, if you see a cold air intake, just the obvious things, and it doesn't have an access port, the first thing you can do is ask the dealership, is it tuned? Most likely they're not gonna know, and I would stay away from it, because you really do need, if the car has those and it's not tuned, then honestly I'd say it's a ticking time bomb for what can happen. Who knows how long it has not had a tune, and maybe it did have one. A lot of the time when people go to trade their car in, they'll take expensive parts off of it to resell. They could have just taken the tune off, taken the access port, gave it to the dealership. In that case, you'd probably be fine. Throw an access port on it, throw the right tune on it, and you'd be good. But it's kind of hit or miss. I mean, you go buy a Subaru with a downpipe, cold air intake, who knows what else is done to it that you can't see. It doesn't have a tune and it's either gonna blow up, or you find out it has those things and you're like, well crap, now I need to figure out how to get this thing tuned by a professional, which is gonna cost way more money right up front to do it the right way. So be careful with that. Obviously, if you buy from an individual, it's still gonna be hit or miss. I mean, who knows? At least if you're talking to them, they can tell you a mod list probably easier than the dealership can. And the reason I'm saying this is because my buddy went to a dealership, was looking at a Subaru once, and it had like a titanium exhaust tips, which this specific Subaru didn't come with that. And they were telling him like, no, it's got an OEM exhaust on it. So they just straight up didn't know, which is scary when buying a Subaru. So anyway, let me get back on track here. Let's go into WRX versus STI. So if I could restart, I would buy an STI over my WRX. And the only reason for that is because of the transmission. If you're wanting to buy a Subaru to modify, to make big power on, you will want to go with an STI, because the 6-speed transmissions are bulletproof, and they say that the 5-speed WRX transmissions are like glass. So if you're wanting to make big power, you're going to need the STI transmission, or you're going to explode your WRX 5-speed. Now, you can swap it, but I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you already have a WRX and you're like, well, I don't want to go buy an STI now, or you just want to do it. I can understand if you're wanting to buy a car to do something, like if you have a YouTube channel and you want to show how to do a 6-speed swap onto a WRX. If you're not wanting to do that, I'd stick with an STI. Now, if you're wanting to buy a Subaru to not build big power with, you could save money and go to WRX. If you're wanting to just do a small budget power build like what I have right now, which is 300 to probably 400 horse, your WRX transmission is probably fine. But if you're wanting to go big eventually, which I would like to have that option, go with an STI. Another difference is the bolt pattern. 5x114 seems to be a little bit more of a popular bolt pattern, which that is what's on the STI. WRXs are 5x100. So I mean, you can swap all that out too, but yeah. There is this big misconception that Subarus are just flat out not reliable, and that is not true. Subarus are actually very reliable in my opinion. The head gasket and ringland thing is big. Your car is not just gonna blow a head gasket one day unless you get very unlucky or it's making a lot of power and it blows out the head gasket. That came from earlier Subarus that they weren't as good. I think they were using different gaskets or something. I don't know the history of that, but that originated from the earlier Subarus. The Subaru nowadays, they're just fine. As long as you build them correctly when you're making power, they're gonna stay reliable. Your head gaskets are gonna be fine. Now with that being said, that goes back to if you're modifying it, you need to tune it, you need to have a good tune, you need to have good quality parts, you need to do everything the right way. And that goes back to me talking about how it's real tedious, and if you do it right on a Subaru, then doing it on any other car, it's a good learning experience, because you're not going to cut corners on other cars, or if you do, you're going to know that you probably shouldn't have. Where was I going with that? Oh, there is plenty of reliability mods with Subarus that you can do, which I have several videos on reliability mods, cylinder 4 cooling mod, AOS, and with talking about an AOS, if you come across a Subaru at a dealership or out where a personal seller and you see the Subaru engine bay looks stock, but it has an AOS, I would take that as it's a pretty good sign, because that means the person took the time to do a reliability mod on it, and I would just take that as a good sign. You probably would want to pull the trigger on that one. Now, they could have taken all the other parts off and left the AOS, and who knows, but in the end, they took the time to do that reliability mod, which means they probably somebody took care of the car. Specifically talking about the 08 to 14 Subaru, which is my body style, you got to be careful, because there is an extended warranty. I don't know if it's all of those years. This would be something worth looking into, but I know it's my body style. There was a class action lawsuit that ended in an extended warranty up to 100,000 miles. If you get rod knock, it is because that Subaru's main line boring machine in their engine factory was out of calibration for those years. So I guess the engine wasn't in spec, and it could result in rod knock. Now, I'm kind of contradicting myself with Subarus are reliable, but there is a extended warranty on it. Subaru took ownership for it, and if your car is under 100,000 miles and it gets rod knock, you give it to Subaru, they detect that that's what happened, they'll give you a new short block for free, which is what happened to me. So buying my year Subaru could be a little iffy, which mine's 2013. Could be a little iffy because if the owner doesn't know, if the owner does not know if the short block has been replaced because of this reason, then I would probably stay away from it unless it's got real low miles, because you could get the car and it could have rod knock, and it's not your fault, it's not the person that owned it before you's fault, it's just bad luck. And if it happens outside of 100,000 miles, you're screwed. And even if it happens under 100,000 miles, Subaru could honestly turn you away. I don't know how often they do that, but they could turn you away and say, sorry, that's not the reason it blew up. Now mine was modified at that point, but I did have all my stock parts. So if you buy one that's modified, that's 08 to 14, and the engine has not been replaced, I'd probably stay away from that. That's probably not a great idea, because if it blows up, Subaru's not going to replace your short block, because they're going to say, well, it's because of all these parts you have on it. With all that being said, I am very happy with my Subaru. I might, if I could do it all over again, honestly, I might buy an Evo, but I know that those have just the same issues. So at some point I would have bought a Subaru. Definitely would have bought an STI though if I did all this over again. But long story short, if you're just wanting to buy a car to modify if you're young and you're just getting into the car scene, you don't know what you want, you come across the Subaru, there's downsides and plus sides of it. Keep in mind it's going to be expensive. Keep in mind it's very tedious. You have to do things the right way in order for it to last. Reliability mods, get a good tune, all that. So basically these are all the things I wish I would have known about my Subaru before I bought it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like, leave a comment. Check out some of my other videos. I've got other talking videos explaining Subarus and tunes, reliability stuff. I don't remember all what else, but I do my full build, full budget build on my WRXs on there. So if you check all that out and you like my content, don't forget to subscribe because that will help me out a lot. Thanks so much, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.